All right, we're going to go through this ChatGPT conversation I had. We're going to build out our restaurant niche. So, this is perfect if you are a new producer, if you're trying to figure out a niche you want to build out, or if you're a sales trainer, you're training new producers. This is an awesome way to use a tool like ChatGPT to help you brainstorm, help you get scenarios, help you get information that you can use to build out that niche. So I wanted to see how far we could take it today. Stayed relatively high level in some areas that I really think you could dive down further into if you were building this out. But I wanted to cover a lot of ground and see what it could do. So we're just going to go through this step by step. First thing I told it, who we are. I am a property casualty insurance producer, and I want to build out a niche to target restaurant businesses with at least 3 locations. Asked it to help me design the program, etc. So then I always like to keep it super high level and not give it a ton of parameters right away, and just say, how would you recommend I build this out? Because you never know what you're going to get back. You can always get more specific as you go. So it, told me and gave me some high level recommendations. You should do market research that includes client profile, insurance needs, pain points, competitive analysis, etc. A couple things I noticed in here that you'll see me reference back to. I try to have it do some market research on the web. So this is the web browsing version. And I'll give my feedback on that as we go. And then I had it develop me some client surveys on some pain points. So I always like to reference back to exactly what it recommended as much as I can. Then networking, obviously that one's pretty self-explanatory. Marketing, we dive into that one quite a bit. ChatGPT is great at helping you develop some marketing strategies. Establishing yourself as an expert, and then service excellence. So overall, not some bad recommendations, pretty high level. So let's say, all right, we want to go deeper on this ChatGPT, and we're going to see what it can do. So let's start with market research. I wanted it to search the web for this. Given the business climate today, what are the top risks and concerns related to insurance that restaurant owners should be concerned about? So first off, it did not search the web right away. So I stopped this search as it was building. That's why it cuts off, and asked it to browse the internet for that response. It's kind of interesting, the difference though. So here it was talking about very specific insurance coverages that it knows apply to restaurants. But then when I asked it to search the web, I got data management, property insurance market, supply chain vulnerabilities, cyber risk, human capital challenges. Now these came from, you can drop this down here. These came from Marsh. Looks like it also referenced an article on this AMP SUI digital SSO. So it's searching a couple different areas, but mainly I think it was this Marsh article that it's pulling from. That's good to know for you. If you're ever going to use this content, you would definitely want to cite sources. But you can also then see exactly where it pulled from here on these little notations. That's good to know, but it also then told me that it ran out of time as it was searching for that particular information. So I think that web browsing function still has a lot of improvement, but it is pretty cool that it can get out and search the web with up-to-date information. I'm sure if I prompted this more specifically, it could search for much more specific information. But anyways, it came back with data management, property insurance market, supply chain vulnerabilities, cyber risk, and human capital challenges as the top risks or concerns for restaurant owners right now. So I said, okay, I don't really have solutions, or I don't know how I could provide value in those areas. So why don't you provide me with 2 to 3 potential solutions that I could provide these restaurant owners that would address each of those risks, be as specific as possible. So again, it's not necessarily giving me specific solutions I can provide, but it certainly gives me, some talking points, some things that I could build out a solution on. Maybe I want to, if data management is a really big issue for these restaurants, maybe I want to talk to a few data scientists or analysts and try to figure out, could I build out a relationship here that would provide a ton of value to these restaurants? I don't know, but it gives you a great opportunity to really look at these and understand how could I provide value in these areas. So it does a pretty good job of that. So then we get into property insurance market, supply chain vulnerabilities. It's doing the same thing, provides 3 for each one. Cyber risk is obviously a big issue for restaurants, so on and so forth, and then human capital challenges, right? So not bad. Certainly could probably be better, but not bad. Uh, then I want to say, okay, going back to market research, as I mentioned earlier, it recommended that I do these pain points, figure out these pain points with clients. Well, I don't know how to do that. So I said, all right, will you develop me a survey of 5 to 10 questions that I can send to these prospects that will help me better understand their pain points? And here you go. It gives me 10 questions that I can ask to these clients. I'll give you a second to look at those. What I thought was interesting with this is it gives you some recommendations following the questions, right? You could provide a list of options based on common challenges, such as supply chain disruptions, labor shortages, etc. Use this one on a scale of 1 to 5. So it's really kind of cool how it gives you those, recommendations for how to answer what to put in the survey, right? So I thought that was pretty cool. But then I'm like, I don't really know how to get this in front of my clients, right? So I need an email drafted that can introduce this to my clients and get them to fill it out, right? So I had it draft me that email that I could send to get people to fill it out, but I also wanted a follow-up email I could send if they don't respond to the first email. So here's my draft of the first one, and here's my follow-up, right? So again, these aren't going to be perfect. They're going to give you a decent start, and you need to really go through, put it in your language, put it in your words. But I can tell you they're going to be pretty accurate. I always think if it can get me 75% of the way there, that's a big win. So I think this, is a really cool way to use ChatGPT to help you get ideas on drafts of things like this. And the more details you put into your prompt, the more it will incorporate those into your emails or whatever. And so you'll see I do that later on with a statistics section right here. So my next thing was, okay, I've got my survey. Now I know my pain points, right? Well, now I want a marketing plan that I can use to reach out to these new opportunities, right? The theory here is I now know what I want to hit on. I need to be able to reach out directly to these clients. So I want to do an email marketing campaign. Okay. So I want ChatGPT to develop a 3 email campaign that I can set up and send directly to the decision maker. But I want it to include this specific statistic that 70% of insurance submissions don't include all the information necessary to receive the full credits available from an underwriter. And we help ensure our clients receive the credits and discounts that they deserve in their insurance program. I was just making up a statistic. I've heard something close to that over time, but don't take it as gospel. I just wanted to see what it could do with that. And the results here were pretty cool. It doesn't just take that statistic and put it into those words. It uses it in different ways, right? So here's my 3 email campaign. Number 1, introducing our services. And you can see right here is where it kind of incorporates that statistic. So in the ever-changing landscape of the restaurant industry, finding the right insurance coverage can be a complex task. Unfortunately, many businesses fail to receive the full credit available from underwriters due to incomplete insurance submissions. In fact, this is true for over 70% of cases. That's cool, right? So it put it into completely different words, but it used that statistic that I had in there. So again, you're going to want to go through this, update it, change it, tweak it to your specific voice, make sure it's accurate, but it's pretty close. And then number 2, same thing, right? It's putting in a different, framing things differently. It gives me 3 things that I want to share with this particular prospect about how I differentiate myself or ourselves. And it includes that statistic right here. As I mentioned in my previous email, 70% of insurance submissions do not include all the necessary information to receive full credit. So again, it's putting it into a different format than I had originally told it to. And the last one, it doesn't include that statistic, which is fine, but gives me kind of a good generic kind of last email. So I thought that was pretty spot on and really powerful in helping to create, say, an email campaign. Okay. So now I want to continue on my direct reach out script. So I want to write me a cold call script, right? So I've got these prospect lists now, and I know their pain points. I've sent them a few emails. Now I want to cold call them, right? Because I haven't heard back. So I want it to write me a cold call script, and I also want it to include the top objections I will receive and how I can overcome those objections. So this is pretty generic, but would give you a good starting point, especially if you're brand new in the industry. One thing I thought was interesting with this is it included my statistic in there. Um, again, put it into a different format, but did put it in there, which I thought was, I didn't even ask it to, it just did that. Um, so it's an okay cold call script, right? Gives you then the potential objections and responses. We already have an insurance provider. Gives you an option to get over that objection. We're not interested in changing our insurance right now is objection 2. Gives me a response. We don't have time for this right now. Gives me a response. So I thought that was pretty cool too. If you're a new producer or you're just somebody that's trying to understand a new industry, how they might respond to these things or whatever, this just gives you a good thought partner, really, to walk through these particular scenarios and give you ideas on how you could respond. You're going to want to practice it, put it in your own words, and do all of that, but it gets you way further down the path. So now we have our marketing campaign, we have our direct reach out campaign. Now we want to set ourselves up as that content expert, right? So I told it that I want to be the expert in multi-location restaurant insurance, and I want to use content marketing. So provide me at least 10 recommendations of topics for blog posts that these restaurant owners would be interested in reading. So again, this is building on itself as it goes. So it's referencing back, or what I noticed in these 10 recommendations is it's referencing back to that market research that it told me about as it's pulling these in, which I thought was pretty cool. Because if you get really good at prompting and building on itself, you can get these pretty dialed in. But you can see some of these are really interesting ideas for different blog posts that you could write. Overcoming human capital challenges in the restaurant industry, the role of data in managing restaurant risks. Like, there's a lot of good ones in here. And again, you could keep prompting it for different ideas, and it's going to keep giving you different ideas until you find the ones that resonate with you, or find the ones that, match your expertise that you can write about. But let's say that you're like, man, that's great. I'm not a content writer though. I need some help. So now I said, write me a blog post for topics 1, 2, and 4 that it gave me up top, and include a LinkedIn post and a Twitter post that I can use for each blog post. So it's going to write me that. It pulls in number 1, how to navigate the increasingly challenging property insurance market. It pulled in some recent statistics, which, I didn't realize it was going to do either, but it's pulling from the web. So, this is particularly true for the restaurant industry, which has seen an average increase in property insurance pricing of 11% in the fourth quarter of 2022. That's cool that it can pull in some of that information. It didn't cite that, so I don't know where it's pulling from, but it is there. You can look it up, make sure it's accurate. But it gives you a good starting point for a quick blog here, right? As I've mentioned, make it your own, put it in your own words, but it gives you that. And it gives you your LinkedIn post and your Twitter post that could go along with it. So again, I think this is pretty dang cool on what it can allow you to do to speed up your content building to set yourself up as the expert in multi-location restaurants. A lot of these aren't necessarily specific to the insurance industry too, so you can really set yourself up as the expert in this particular area. Okay. So now I was like, I think that's pretty good for the marketing side, and I thought, well, let's see if we can take it a step further to help it build out my sales process that I want to take these prospects through that I get, right? So I want you to help me build out my sales process. I want to start with the assessment. What are the questions that I need to ask this prospect to identify whether or not I can help them in their insurance program? So I asked it to develop those questions, and for each question, provide 4 potential responses, 1 being the lowest and 4 being the highest scored. Put these into a table. It's easy to read. So here's what we got back. How often do you update your property valuations? How comprehensive is your current insurance submission? So on and so forth. So we got, maybe 10 questions here that, we could take out more change, put in your own words, and really have a robust assessment that you can talk to your client about, right? And then it was interesting too. It even built in a scoring function into here where it said if you add up the score at the end, the higher the score, the higher the potential risk, which means that there may be opportunities to help the client improve the risk management and insurance program. I thought that was really cool. I didn't ask it to build in a scoring mechanism, or anything, but it put two and two together that if 4 is bad, the higher, if you add up all the scores, the higher the score is, the more risky it's going to be. That was cool. So now I'm like, well, I went through, asked all these questions. Now I need a way to present this information to the client, the results of the assessment. So I asked it to just build me a template for a presentation, and it put it into PowerPoint. I didn't ask it to put it into any specific format, so it seems like it went with a PowerPoint presentation or some sort of a slideshow. But it kind of lays it out for you. Slide 1, introduction, greet the client, briefly introduce yourself and your expertise, provide a brief overview of the purpose of the presentation, so on and so forth. So this is a really cool application, I think, if you're, again, starting out, you're getting into a new niche, a new area, maybe you're going from personal lines to commercial lines. Really awesome, the ability to help you generate a solid presentation that's meaningful to your clients and prospects. So that really helped us kind of get to the end of building out our niche in restaurants. Hopefully you see this as valuable. If you want kind of the full prompts and everything, it was a pretty long one, so I didn't put it directly into our blog post or anything, but feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to get you that info and talk more about it. So see you next time.